There are tons and tons of different monsters throughout the various editions of D&D, and many of them appeared only once, just one time, many, many years ago, and then they became forgotten, extinct D&D monsters. We could say their lineages have not survived to the current day. So join me, if you will. We're going to take a look at some particularly noteworthy monsters from decades past. So we're going to start off with a real bang. This is the Deepspawn, coming in at challenge rating 8. It's from the Monsters of Faerun book in 3rd edition. Deepspawn are huge, nightmarish aberrations capable of reproducing any creature that they've devoured. They spawn fully formed and perfectly loyal copies that retain the abilities and even the memories of the original monster. In other words, these are living monster factories. Just listen to this special ability. By some unexplained natural means, Deepspawn can grow and give birth to any creature native to the material plane that it has ever devoured. So not outsiders, elementals, undead, other multidimensional creatures. A spawn has the same type, natural attacks, magical abilities, alignment, even intelligence as the creature that was devoured by the Deepspawn. And it retains any of its learned abilities, like if it had class abilities, trained skills, feats, as well as some dim memory of its former existence. A spawn grows in 1d4 days within the Deepspawn's body, then emerges fully formed and ready for immediate action. Spawn are completely loyal to the Deepspawn that formed them, and they cannot be made to attack their parent even by magical means. Deepspawn themselves have massive tentacled bodies, and they hide in remote caverns and ruins. They're particularly adept at hiding within treasure hoards and then using the coins and the objects for cover. Deepspawn are typically surrounded by traps and all the monsters that they've spawned, which defend them fiercely. In combat, they lash out with all 6 limbs. Some of them even wield weapons, others bite with these mouths on them. So a Deepspawn is capable of overwhelming intruders just on its own, and then it also has powerful paralyzing magic, and once per day can cast Heal on itself. And if you don't know, Heal is actually a very high-powered healing spell in D&D. So really an incredible monster here, and it's a fantastic concept to serve as a foundation for a dungeon or even a mega dungeon. In fact, I think that a single Deepspawn could infest an entire region with deadly creatures, things that can threaten even the most well-prepared adventurers. Next up, we have the Avolakia at challenge rating 10. This comes out of Monster Manual 2 from 3rd edition. Avolakias are grotesque, highly intelligent aberrations that infiltrate societies by disguising themselves with polymorph magic and by manipulating others. They use charm, they use deception, and they have very powerful yet very subtle magical forms of manipulation. While they're in humanoid form, they speak soothing, pleasant words that actually function as a potent suggestion spell. The Avolakia's main food source is undead, and they surround themselves with undead minions, which they control and they create. They use basically very powerful necromancy magic. Avolakias are followers of Caius, who is a quasi-deity, a really nasty thing, the worm that walks. And the Avolakias embed themselves beneath the surface communities, so from kind of the underground layers, they hijack things like funerary rites so they can gain access to corpses, and they also go on converting locals into cultists. At times, they have formed alliances with Underdark races like Mind Flayers, but these partnerships typically end in betrayal as Avolakias relentlessly pursue their own goals. They don't ultimately serve anyone else. In combat, an Avolakia prefers to cast necromancy spells from a distance, while its undead minions engage the enemy head-on. If it gets forced into melee, an Avolakia attacks with its 8 claws and a poisonous bite that deals 1d6 damage to the wisdom score Then a minute later, it can deal an additional 2d6 damage to the wisdom score. That's how the secondary poison damages would work in 3E. So this is the kind of hardcore death metal type monster we almost never get anymore. Yes, the game has become more accessible to new players and to wider audiences, but for those who can appreciate brutal monsters and actual grotesquerie, something like the Avolakia really hits the spot. We're going to go back into the late 80s on this next one. It's the Spirit Warrior out of the 2nd edition Spelljammer book. The name of this creature is actually a bit misleading. Spirit Warrior sounds like it would be some kind of ghostly fighter, but rather this is an enormous undead insect that's been converted into a manned battlesuit. So keep in mind, this is Spelljammer, so it has kind of a sci-fi twist to it. So Spirit Warriors are created by the Elven Imperial Fleet, and they were originally made to serve as long-range infantry weapons during the First Unhuman War. All Spirit Warriors were placed in stasis at the end of the Unhuman War, but they are occasionally reactivated and deployed when in certain crises. A Spirit Warrior is operated by an Elven pilot, who is also known as a Spirit Warrior, and then this Elven pilot is controlling this giant carapace battlesuit colossus from within a cavity in its chest. Spirit Warriors come in 3 different types. There are carnivores with mantis-like claws, herbivores with immense leaping power and a camouflage, and nectars with colorful wings and fire-projecting stingers. Each Spirit Warrior mirrors its master's combat skill, wielding massive weapons or delivering devastating natural attacks, things like sonic screeches, grappling limbs, or incendiary stings. Though they are powerful, very, very powerful, they share a lifelink with their masters. So damage to the Spirit Warrior harms the wielder, or the pilot as they're really called. And actually a critical hit can even end up killing them both instantly. I'm not crazy about the name of this monster, but everything else about it really rocks. Some people liken the Spirit Warriors to Mecha or even Voltron, which I can certainly see, though I also wonder if the designer took some inspiration from Nausicaa of the Valley of Wind, combining elements of the giant insects and the giant Colossus Warrior. Next, we have the Harvester Devil, formerly known as a Falxagon, challenge rating of 7. This comes from Fiendish Codex 2 in the 3E era, kind of later in the 3E era. Harvester Devils are cunning manipulators from the 9 Hells. They're sent to the mortal world to corrupt souls through temptation, deceit, and political intrigue. Though they are dangerous in combat, they prefer manipulation and misdirection. They prefer to rely more on cultists or lesser devils or even traps to protect themselves and their many secrets. Harvester devils rarely work together. They tend to act alone, and they don't really like to fight directly. They'll only get into a direct fight if it's absolutely necessary to keep their schemes hidden from the righteous. They have some particularly insidious features. Check out this one, Alignment Mask. A Harvester Devil can deceive magical alignment detection by feigning a non-evil presence. Or Infernal Debt. Those who are wounded by a Harvester Devil's cursed dagger suffer a weakening fatigue along with this compulsion to attack innocent people. It's sort of a curse, and you can't overcome this fatigue until you willingly strike a good aligned creature. And Refuge of the Damned, what a name. Through a bizarre clause in the Pact Primeval, Harvester Devils are magically warded to prevent all attacks by non-outsiders, at least until they strike first. A Harvester Devil continuously gains the benefit of a Sanctuary spell. It takes a DC 22 Wisdom saving throw to overcome this effect. Outsiders are unaffected by this ability, so in modern terms, it's like creatures such as angels, devils, demons, things like from outer planes. So they're not affected by this Sanctuary, but basically everything else in the mortal world, in the material plane is. If a Harvester Devil attacks an opponent, the ability is not going to function for 1 minute. And if you are a non-outsider who succeeds on your saving throw against the Sanctuary effect, you still take a -2 penalty on all your saving throws for 1 minute. It's a cosmic price for breaking this ancient clause that protects the Harvester Devils. As much as 3rd edition had its downsides with being overly complex and meticulous, when I read over monsters like this one, I feel so inspired. They have such unique abilities and great lore. The writing that went into them just has more artistry to it, more crafting. The next monster on our tour here is called the Spanner. It's from the Monstrous Compendium of 2nd edition. Spanners, also known as living bridges, are intelligent stone creatures originally created by a wizard to guard his tower, but they now roam the wilderness disguised as natural-looking arch bridges. They're usually friendly and actually talkative, but if you disrespect them, they can become quite deadly. When they become hostile, a spanner hurls or drops people from its back using violent structural shifts. They are nearly indistinguishable from real bridges, and they don't even die of old age. In fact, they sustain themselves not through eating, but through curiosity and conversation, and through protecting the natural world. I'm actually surprised the Spanner has never been reprinted. If nothing else, I could easily imagine it being repurposed as a kind of gargantuan mimic. Yeah, it is kind of hokey and silly, but there are plenty of creatures in 5e that are even goofier than this. Next up is the Grey Philosopher. This comes from the Monstrous Compendium of Mystara in 2nd edition. A Grey Philosopher is the undead spirit of an evil cleric, doomed to sit eternally in silent contemplation of an unresolved philosophical dilemma. Around it swirl specter-like wisps known as malices, which are fragments of the Grey Philosopher's own evil thoughts given form. The malices attack intruders, dealing higher damage to good-aligned characters and less damage to evil characters. All the while, the Philosopher remains motionless. It actually does not have any offensive capabilities. It simply holds still in its all-consuming mental quest. The Philosopher never breaks its concentration, even if attacked. And if it's destroyed, in the Philosopher's final seconds, it looks up with an expression of malicious enlightenment on its face, then vanishes with a lingering shriek of evil delight. This sound can cause the characters to shake with a terror that lasts indefinitely until magically cured. Some believe that the Grey Philosophers must be sought out and destroyed, claiming that if one is left undisturbed long enough, it will eventually ascend to some kind of terrifying, immortal power. So this was an amazing creature for me to discover. It's just oozing with story and style. What a unique monster. Another thing that's interesting is how it reminds me somewhat of the Horrid Counselor from Esper's Emporium of Esoterica. They have a number of differences, but there are some elements that are in common in terms of mental battles instead of physical combat, and an evil, supernatural philosopher type creature. Continuing with the evil theme, we have the Corruptor of Fate. They start at challenge rating 5, though there's also a version of one that's at challenge rating of 10. It's from Monster Manual 4 in 3rd edition, a fantastic book. Corruptors of Fate are a kind of Yugoloth. They're Yugoloth assassins. They're native to the bleak eternity of Gehenna. They're known for their mercenary service and a preference for working alone or with undead or constructs. Their grotesquely fat bodies hide razor-sharp instincts for survival, and their eerie presence is marked by a brimstone stench and the telepathic sound of rolling dice during combat. Young corruptors are raised by undead, and they are given brutal training from the start. They are taught stealth, cruelty, and even to despise their own kind. This prepares them for a life of bloodshed and betrayal. Once matured, each corruptor is sent on a lethal trial mission by their patron. Success means entrance into the assassin elite. Failure often means death. Despite their lethality, corruptors are pragmatic. and they might abandon their current masters for more promising opportunities with other fiends, or aberrations, or even mortal tyrants. They have a host of unique features. Their short sword attacks bestow curses, like the spell Bestow Curse. They have a corrupting gaze that imposes penalties on all enemy d20 rolls, which gets even worse when we combine it with the Corruptor's Unluck trait, which imposes disadvantage on all attack rolls and damage rolls made against it. I have to say that the Corruptor of Fate really embodies the essence of Yugoloths. Both its features and its lore express what Yugoloths are at their core. Fiends, not devils. A long time ago they originated as devils, but they were twisted and changed into something else. Somewhere between devil and demon, neutral evil, treacherous, untrustworthy, yet brutally powerful, as mercenaries or as independent, fiendish cabals. And now we come to the Shredstorm at challenge rating 8. This comes out of Monster Manual 3 from 3rd edition, another fantastic bestiary. There are many obscure, forgotten monsters from this fantastic book, but I'd like to round things out with a construct. So I'm going with the Shredstorm. This is actually a kind of swarm. Swarms are usually things like spiders and wasps and snakes and piranhas, but in this case, it's a swarm of razor-sharp, electrified adamantine blades. It's like a magical shrapnel tornado. This animated swarm of spinning death crackles with electricity. It can release a high-powered lightning bolt once every 2d6 hours. These things are basically designed for siege warfare, and they are capable of tearing through fortifications and through hordes of enemies. They obey commands from their creators, or they can be made to execute simple preset programs. Essentially anything that gets caught in this swarm's path is shredded by its thousands of blades and simultaneously electrocuted by it. In a world of magic and wizards and artificers, I can easily imagine Shredstorms being constructed for war or even other plots. It's like a drone cluster taken to an extreme level. It's almost too brutal, too inhuman. So this is perfect for settings that are willing to go hard. If you like these obscure monsters and want to see even more adventure fueling and inspiring creatures, check out the video that's linked below. It's also linked at the end screen here in a moment. I cover my top 10 favorite monsters from Esper's Emporium of Esoterica, a 5e book I published a few years ago. It has 170 unique monsters and NPCs in it, as well as traps, magic shops, cursed items, and a bunch of player options. So check that out. I also want to give a special thanks to everyone who supports me over on Patreon, in particular, Modern Patron, Adam Wood, Nick Thy Pirate King, Jared Primont, Locke, Nicholas A., Technicolor Shale, Robert Brashini, Ben R., Till Wrench, Tornado, Agile Monk, James from KC, and Sassy Cat Productions. You guys are the best. Thank you so much. Thanks for watching, everybody. If there are any other forgotten, extinct D&D monsters that have never been reprinted, please comment down below. I'd be happy to take a look into them, perhaps do another video in the same vein. And until we meet again, my brave companions, may your adventures be many.